Hi, I'm Stuart and welcome to the Sports GT Classic Cars channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about selling cars at auction with no reserve. I'll not only explain what that means, what the risks are and how you can mitigate them, but also what the potential benefits are. I'm then going to take a look at a handful of cars heading into auction shortly that have been listed with no reserve. And in a part 2 to this video, coming next week, we'll follow up on those cars and find out how they got on. If you want to make sure you don't miss the follow-up, click or tap on that icon down there to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified. If you'd like to support the channel even further and get rewards and recognition in return, it will be great if you could consider becoming a channel member. There's a link in the description to this video with all the details for joining. When a seller consigns a car to auction, whether it's an online auction or at a live event, they have the option of setting a reserve selling price. The reserve is the lowest monetary amount agreed with the auction house that the seller would want to sell the car at, taking into account any seller's fees that the auction house might deduct. If the bidding doesn't reach that amount, then the car won't be sold. If it gets close to that amount, the auctioneer might hammer it down as a provisional sale, subject to a negotiation between the seller, auction house and the highest bidder to agree a price. If the reserve price is set too high, overvaluing the car, then the seller has a good chance of taking the car home with them. Usually, a guide price will be given by the auction house, a price range within which it expects the car to sell. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's good in that it sets expectations of what the reserve price might be, usually a little below the lower figure, and bad in that the upper amount might prematurely stop people bidding if they think they're overpaying. In a no reserve lot, the car will sell for whichever is the highest bid when the auctioneer's hammer hits the block, regardless of how much it is. Sometimes no reserve auctions have guide pricing and sometimes not. If there isn't a guide, then it's a fair and level playing field for buyers to bid up to whatever they believe is worth to them on that day. So for the buyers, no reserve auctions offer an opportunity to bag a bargain if there aren't so many other bidders. But is there an upside for the sellers too? Well, the short answer is yes. First, it's a guaranteed sale. They won't be taking the car home. If they're a dealer, they know they'll be moving stock and can make space for other cars. For an individual, they must bear in mind that owning a car, insuring it, maintaining it and storing it, costs money, and a sale will save them these costs. Second, a no reserve lot attracts more bidders. 76% more bidders on average than a reserve sale. And this makes it more likely that there'll be a bidding war which could result in a higher sale price. Finally, a no reserve auction is totally transparent. Where a reserve is set, the auctioneer can legally take bids off the wall, phantom bids, to give the impression of there being more bidders to encourage real buyers to join in. But they can only do this while the current bid amount stays below the reserve price. If there is no reserve price, all bids are real bids, and the sale can become very exciting very quickly. Clearly for the seller, there's also a real downside. If the auction turnout isn't as large as expected, or bidding is low, they might end up selling the car way below its perceived value and potentially be out of pocket. The ways that most auction houses, especially those online, mitigate this risk is to give good descriptions and take lots of photos of the car. They will of course do their best at marketing and promoting the sale to get as large an audience as possible. They can also set a decent starting price to get the bids coming in at realistic but still enticing level. So let's take a look at an upcoming auction and some no reserve lots. So this is the auction I'm looking at. It's the H&H auctions of classic motor cars, Pavilion Gardens, Buxton in November 2024. So it's actually a live event auction, it's not an online one, although they do obviously accept online bids. And I've done a quick search in the keywords for no reserve, and it's come back with 32 lots that are selling at no reserve. Now there's a bit of a variety of things. There's some project cars that you'd maybe imagine to sell at no reserve because it's really hard to value that. Others though are complete cars and fully restored and the like. Some moderns, some relatively modern, some older. So we're going to look at a handful of these if I can find some other cars that are very similar in the sale that actually do have a reserve, that'd be a great comparison to see how they do come sale time. So the first car I'm going to look at is this one, a 1966 MGB Roadster. It was restored back in the late 80s. It still looks in pretty good condition subject to the photographs. I've had a look through the photos, and it's an early type, the sort of pull door handles, and it's got the British Motor Industry Heritage Trust certificate. Yeah, it's a really nice car. So because it's at no reserve, there's no particular guide for this, there's no estimate. So we'll have a look at another one, which is this one here, which is another 1966 MGB Roadster. It's obviously long-term family ownership, this one. It was mechanically refreshed less than 500 miles ago, so obviously it's a good runner, and I've looked through the pictures and it seems in decent order. So this one does have an estimate because there is a reserve that's been set, and that estimate is between 8,000 and 10,000. So if you remember, the other one has no estimate because it's no reserve. So it'll be a great comparison to see how these both do come sale time. Next car I'm going to look at, I've picked out, is this BMW 628 CSI from 1983. It's reportedly quite rare, the 628, but it's an automatic. So it looks in reasonable order. Again, fairly rare green metallic paint colour. The service history is mostly BMW. So yeah, there's not many of these around, but we'll see how this is doing. But it's at no reserve. Now there's not a direct comparison to this, but what there is this BMW 635 CSI. So it's a slightly bigger engine, and it is also a manual. This one is estimated at 14,000 to 16,000. So again, not a direct comparison. I suspect this one should go for a little bit higher because it's got a bigger engine and it's manual. But let's see how those two do. So a BMW 628 CSI versus a BMW 635 CSI. Next car I'm going to pick out is this 2015 Ford Mustang GT 50th Anniversary Edition. Limited edition, less than 2,000 of these around. One of the key features of this, looking at it, is the scissor doors. So it's a wide body, scissor doors, got various performance upgrades, 450 brake horsepower. I won't find another one like this in this sale, but what I should be able to do is to look at recent sales of these cars, or where they're actually being retailed or offered for retail sale on the internet. So I'll see how this one does, and then see if I can compare it to what I think the price should be. So this next one, Jaguar XK150 from 1957, a convertible drop head. There isn't a comparator again for this one, but I've got the Haggerty price list and all these other things. We should be able to get what these should go for. This is a USA car, so you have to kind of take that into consideration, or it has been converted to right-hand drive since. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. See how that one does. And again, it's been uprated, so it's been modified in a couple of ways. We'll see how that does. The next two lots I'm going to look at are both the same kind of car. They're both set at no reserve. So it's this 1961 Wolseley 1500, and there's a 1962 Wolseley 1500 too. So that would be an interesting thing to see. I obviously don't have a comparator that's with a reserve price set, but it'd be good to look at these two cars. I can find the Haggerty valuation and other valuations elsewhere, so we can get a good view of what they're going to do. But yeah, cute little cars, these Wolseleys, and they're not. I mean, there's probably a fair few around, but they're not one of those cars that are that popular, I suppose. They're not sort of standout cars from that era. So not one of my favourite cars, but it's here and they're quite popular. 1971 Triumph Stag. This particular one with no reserves looking a little bit of a sorry state. It's a bit of a project, a lot of rust down the sides, no doubt some underneath as well. I don't know where it's at in terms of mechanical. Yeah, it's being offered as a great winter project. And there's also this one, a 1974 Stag, which is estimated 14,000 to 16,000. Now bearing in mind this one's done, this one's ready to go, it will be interesting as to what you think that it will cost to bring the other one back to life. I mean, you know, if you've got a lot of the skills yourself, I guess there's going to be not so much cost, but there's an awful lot of work involved. But yeah, we'll see how far or how close that would get to the estimate of the one that is done, and see what the one that is done goes for. So let's look at this 1996 Jaguar XJ6 3.2 Select. Now this is actually an import, or a re-import if you like, so it would have been exported to Japan for new sale, and it's now come back, and it's got all that kind of all the documentation necessary from Japan. So yeah, it's, you know, it looks a little bit, I mean, white with the sort of slightly tinted windows, a certain look to it. But let's compare that with this one, lower mileage, and it's a UK car. So that's not white, which probably counts in its favour. 1996 model, so same year, same engine. We'll see how that does. That's estimated at £6,000 to £8,000. So the last car I'm going to pick out is this 1967 Bentley T1. Now this is Bentley's version of the Rolls-Royce Shadow, the Shadow 1 if you like. And I think they produced these in something like, for every 10 Shadows, they did one Bentley T1. So there's around 1,700 of these were actually produced, so they're relatively rare compared to the Rolls-Royce Shadows. But we'll see how this goes. So what I need to do is to make sure I'm paying attention on the 27th of November and make sure that I can see some of these lots as they go through. They do have a results page here with the auction results from previous auctions, but you never know. Sometimes when you look at them, you don't know. I mean, this one, for example, it says sold. There's no particular price on there. So yeah, we have to look at that. It's interesting. Look, there's a Triumph Stag there. No reserve sale, 10,000. Anyway, let's see how it goes, and check back next week. Don't forget to join me again for part 2 of this video, where we follow up on these cars and see how they did at auction. Why not leave me a comment on this video with your views of how these cars might do? And don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and think about joining the channel. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.